Hi everyone, welcome back to today's episode of the Healthy Shift Worker podcast, which is titled Shift Work, Menopause and Belly Fat Part 2. Now, today I want to continue on from episode 105, where we were discussing why it's so hard to lose weight when working 24/7, but especially for the peri-menopausal and menopausal women out there. So this one is for you. And this obviously applies to those women that are working shift work and are around 40 years of age and over. Because there are a lot of contributing factors as to why people gain weight when working shift work. But the majority of reasons why older women struggle with weight gain, and they've tried numerous things to lose the weight and nothing works, has to do with what's going on with their hormones as they age. So in the previous episode, I spoke about estrogen and how lowering levels can lead to something called insulin resistance, which can lead to weight gain. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, number 105, make sure you go back and have a listen after you've finished with this episode. Today, I'm going to talk about another hormone, and that's progesterone, which also declines as we age. Like estrogen, progesterone is primarily made in the ovaries, and its main role is to help regulate the menstrual cycle and prepare the body for pregnancy. Progesterone, unfortunately, also declines as we age, usually beginning in around our mid-30s. But one of the interesting roles of progesterone is that it helps to keep us calm. It does so by stimulating another hormone, or more specifically a neurotransmitter called GABA, which helps to move the body into that beautiful relaxation and restorative mode, also known as the rest and digest or parasympathetic mode. It's why in our 40s we tend to react to stress more acutely. And this reaction to stress causes a surge in the stress hormone cortisol throughout the body. And too much cortisol goes right to the belly, where it's stored as fat. So we've actually got this triple whammy going on for shift working perimenopausal and menopausal women. Declining levels of estrogen, making us more insulin resistant. Progesterone levels going down, destroying our ability to handle stress, making cortisol levels go up, along with the stress-inducing effects of lack of sleep and vice versa. This chronic stress can cause excess fat storage deep in the abdomen, also known as visceral fat. And now we've got this menopausal belly weight scenario going on. So now that we know that our bodies produce less progesterone as we age, which makes us feel wired and frazzled, triggering that rise in the stress hormone cortisol, what can we do about it? Well, I just want to share 3 tips which may help. Number 1 is prioritizing your sleep. As I mentioned in the previous podcast, I'm mentioning again because I feel I need to keep reinforcing it, because so many people, and yes, even the shift workers, are either intentionally or unintentionally making their sleep worse in various ways. The thing is, sleep is one of our biggest pillars when it comes to our health, and we need to be protecting it like our life depends on it, because it does, but also because it plays a huge role when it comes to putting our bodies into a state of chronic stress and ultimately weight gain. From a practical standpoint, this might look like rescheduling social activities and household jobs or tasks, and giving friends and family a heads up in regards to when you might be sleeping. The second thing is to start prioritizing yourself. So now more than ever, it's time to redirect that focus of care on yourself. Now, this can be hard for the majority of women out there, especially if you've just spent the last decade or two looking after children, and perhaps the bigger man-child, your husband and or partner. So it can be a hard habit to break. But this makes it even more critical, because you've potentially spent the last 10, 20 or more years raising a family whilst working shift work, which means you have really been burning the candle at both ends. What can this look like? Well, again, as I mentioned in episode 105, start saying no to overtime. It really is time to hand the baton over to the younger generation, those that have way more energy than you or I. And do more things that bring you joy. Reacquaint yourself to a hobby that you may have dropped over the years. And if you're in a good financial position and your job position allows it, really consider dropping one shift a week. Going part-time, doing job share, whatever it is. You'll be surprised at just how much more relaxed you'll feel when your body is given more opportunities to rest. And thirdly, it's about moving or exercise in a way that will reduce your cortisol, not increase it. And this applies to the type of exercise that you're doing or you're going to do, along with the timing of that exercise. For example, research has shown prolonged aerobic exercise, especially at higher intensities, significantly elevates cortisol concentrations when compared to similar duration and intensities involving resistance training. This is because the sympathetic nervous system is activated during high intense exercise, which stimulates the release of a hormone called adrenocorticotropic hormone, it's a bit of a mouthful, or ACTH, a hormone that's released by the pituitary gland that triggers your adrenal glands to release that cortisol. So if your goal is to keep your cortisol in check, which it absolutely should be, keep your workouts shorter and focus more on resistance training type exercises, which not only prevent those cortisol surges, but they also help to build muscle, which is essential for fat burning to occur. Examples of resistance training is lifting weights, or maybe those bags of groceries with lots of cans in them, using resistance bands, or your own body weight whilst doing things like squats or push-ups. Mindful and restorative practices are also great. Things like meditation, Tai Chi and yoga, especially during those parts of your roster when you're working lots of early or night shifts, when your body is already depleted as a result of the lack of sleep and circadian disruption. And secondly, when it comes to the timing of your exercise, cortisol levels are naturally the highest in the morning, around 7 to 8 a.m, and lowest around midnight. So if you're on days off or you're on a late shift, use the morning as an opportunity to do your exercise. And we should even, never underestimate the power of just walking, as this will help you to use up that cortisol. In turn, avoid exercising late in the afternoon or night, because this will force the body to produce it when it doesn't normally do so. So I hope you found this episode and that information helpful. Please share it with other shift workers so that we can help them too. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next time.